I've been a sucker for Richard Land's content recently, and it's because he shares a couple of ideas that I find really interesting. One of those that has really struck me is the concept of frame of reference. How, as a species, we cannot quantify things in a vacuum, right? So we always have to compare things to be able to assess the value of something. So a tall person is only tall because they are short people, and a rich person is only rich because they are poor people. So we always need those things to be able to know what a situation. And then one of the things he's really talked about, that in light of that, is the fact that certain things, for example, someone who, let's say, is 6 feet tall, maybe in China that's probably a tall person, right? But then if you were to look at put that person as an NBA player, that would be a really short person. So kind of the idea, is that a lot of times things, it's general. We are not able to quantify things in a vacuum. And if you wanted to maybe present information, how you present it, what you're comparing it to, determines in a way how people perceive it. A 6 foot tall person can be short, can be tall. It depends on how the whole stuff is framed. So I personally found that interesting, and there are a lot of ways that we can apply that. Although, of course, in the case of him, it was mostly talking about in business how, let's say, for example, I think Aston Martin. Now, an Aston Martin is an expensive car by most standards, when you compare it to cars. But then Aston Martins do not display their cars at car shows. They display their cars at air shows. So when you've been looking at, all the big jets, if you're familiar with their names, and then you now come to look, jets are in millions, multiple millions of dollars, and then you're looking at a car, maybe a car is like $200K, $300,000. It looks cheap relative to those jets and all of that. So in that situation, the car looks cheap. But then if you were to put that car side by side with a Toyota, it looks freaking expensive. So that's kind of the idea, how just by doing that, and it's a psychological bias. It's something that is interesting to know, because let me not even speak of most people. I talk with myself, when I look at something, it's like, okay, this is this. But I don't often realize is that I'm subconsciously comparing it to something. So again, like if you wanted to present information, it will help to give people a frame of reference, something to compare it to. So this is a Rolls Royce Cullinan, but then it's like, it's 1/3 or like a tenth of the price, of whatever, of a great jet, something like that. As opposed to comparing it with maybe a Toyota or Honda or whatever. You see, it just makes it easier for people to understand what you're saying. So it's an interesting idea that I've learned, and for now it's just interesting.